So this morning we're reading from Chaitanya Charitamrita, reading from Madhya Lila, chapter number 6, entitled The Liberation of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And we're reading text numbers 100 to 101. So I'll read 100 and then 101 is on the board. 100. Gopinathacharya continued, "There is certainly an incarnation in every age, and such an incarnation is called the Yuga Avatar. But your heart has become so hardened by logic and argument that you cannot consider all of these facts." Text number 101. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. In the past, your son has had bodies of 3 different colors according to the age. These colors were white, red, and yellow. In this age, Dwapara Yuga, he has accepted a blackish body. Purport. This verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.8.13 was spoken by Garga Muni when he was performing the rituals at Lord Krishna's name-giving ceremony. He states that the incarnations of the Lord in other ages had been white, red, and yellow. This yellow color refers to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whose bodily complexion was yellowish. This confirms that in past Kali Yugas, the Lord also had incarnated in a body that was yellow in hue. It is understood that the Lord incarnates in different colors for the different yugas, Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali, accepting the color yellow, Pita, as well as other characteristics. The Lord incarnated as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is the verdict of all Vedic authorities. Srila Prabhupada Ki. So with the permission and blessings of the Vaishnavas, I'll try to share something with you as we continue reading about Gopinathacharya and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. The basic point here is that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya has missed the point. In these series of verses, Gopinathacharya is coming to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and quoting many, many verses from Bhagavatam to establish what is the conclusion of the Vedas. Of course, it is mentioned in the Gita, Vedescha sarver aham eva vedyo. Only me, Krishna, I am to be known by all the Vedas, but somehow or other, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya missed the point. He missed the point. He missed what was so obvious. So obvious, but he missed it. In Vedic aphorism, we say, Pasyanapi na pasyati. He was seeing all the Shastra. He was a Shastravit. How could he not have come across Bhagavatam? He was knowing all the Shastras. How can you not come across Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam? He did. And he was seeing, but he was not seeing. But now through the eyes of Gopinathacharya, who was the Vyakti Bhagavat. There are 2 Bhagavats. Dui Bhagavata Dvar Diya Bhakti Ras Donha Hridaya Prema Hoya Vas. Kaviraj Goswami says, Dui Bhagavata Dvar. There are 2 dvars, there are 2 gates. There are 2 pathways, there are 2 access points to the Supreme Lord. Dui Bhagavata, there are 2. There's the book Bhagavat and the person Bhagavat. And what do the Dui Bhagavata Dvar, what do they do? Diya Bhakti Ras. They give you access to Bhakti Ras, the mellows of transcendental connection with Krishna. So, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was very lucky. Gopinathacharya was there, so somehow, although he missed the point, he caught the point later on. This is very, very striking because in spiritual life we can miss the whole point. Do you sometimes feel like you're missing the point in spiritual life? Do you sometimes feel like that? I feel like that all the time. I'll tell you a funny story actually. Well, I think it's funny. There was one man and he was walking past the road, so he saw 2 people in the morning, 2 people. And both of them had spades. So one of them was digging up the ground. And then next to him, as soon as he dug up the ground and put the dirt in one side, another person had another spade, and he had a spade, and he was collecting that same dirt and putting it back in the hole. I said, he was watching them for a few minutes. He was like, this is a bit strange. I mean, if you would see someone out here doing that in the Haveli courtyard or something, one person's digging it up, putting the dirt on one side, another one's taking the dirt and putting it straight back in the same place. Anyway, guys, things happen in Kali Yuga. We'll move on. He went, he did whatever he was doing in the day, and then he came back in the evening, and the same two people were there with the same two spades doing exactly the same thing all day. He was completely baffled. He went up to them, he goes, what are you guys doing? They said, we're doing our job. He said, what kind of job is this? They said, no, this is what we do. This is what we get paid for. Said, what is your job? He said, we plant trees. And we're usually a team of 3. But the middle guy who puts the seed in, he's sick today. But we had to show up for work. I mean, the show must go on. So we continue doing our work. This guy looks at them and says, Pagal, completely mad. You missed the point of the whole activity. You showed up, you did your job, but you missed the whole point of what the goal of it was. And I often remember that story because I think, yeah, I showed up for japa. But maybe I was like one of those workers who was just putting the spade in the ground. Yes, I showed up for the class. But maybe I was just like one of those workers who was putting the spade in the ground. Yes, I showed up for my service. But did I plant the seed of being conscious and aware of what the actual goal of it all is? Of course, it's good to show up for your service. It's good to show up for japa, as they used to say in the national lottery. You got to be in it to win it. So you got to be there. That's a good thing. That's a good start, but it's not enough. It's not enough. Because in spiritual life, we may just be missing the point, which is exactly what Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had done. You can worship the deities and miss the point. What's the point of worshipping the deities? The point of worshipping the deities is to become sensitive to Krishna and to become sensitive to the Vaishnavas. Therefore, in the 11th canto, the Navayogendras tell Nimi, Archaya meva haraye, pujam ya shradaye hate. You can do your archa worship, shradaye hate. You can do your archa worship with so much faith. Natad bhakteshu chanyeshu. But if you don't become sensitive to Krishna, if you don't become sensitive to the Vaishnavas, and if you don't even become sensitive to those who are not devotees, sa bhakta prakrita shmita, you are known to be a materialistic devotee. You miss the whole point of worshipping the deities. Someone was recently giving a class and saying, I can't remember who it was, it's too many rules and regulations, it's too jarring to worship. That's the whole point. The reason why there's so many rules and regulations in deity worship is because we are not conscious, we're not sensitive to Krishna, we're not sensitive to others. So the whole idea of having rules and regulations is to make you conscious of the object of who you're offering service to. Because there's no relationship with anyone if you're not conscious of that person. And therefore, if you do Archa Vigraha but you don't become sensitive, if you do Archanam but you don't become, you miss the point. You can go to the Dham and miss the point. Prabhupada used to quote this verse, Yat tirtha buddhi shalilena karhichit janeshva bhigyeshu sa eva go kara. Go to the Dham. It's one of the most powerful Pancha Anga Bhakti. Go to the Dham. But Yat tirtha buddhi, if you go to the Dham, buddhi with the idea, shalile karhichit, I'm just going there to bathe in the waters. I'm just going there to see all the holy sites. Janeshva Bigeshu, but you don't go to the holy dham and meet the sadhu and hear from them. Saeva go kara, you're basically an cow or an ass. We don't go to the dham just to bathe in the rivers. You might have heard this story. One devotee went to Mayapur. He was bathing in the Ganga. Anyway, somehow or other, there's an undercurrent in the Ganga, so he was drowning. And as he was drowning, he was thinking, this is it. This is it. This is the moment. I'm gonna go. And you know what he remembered? He saw all the bubbles as he was, like going down the Ganga. He saw all the bubbles, and then he remembered the advertisement. Mild green, fairy liquid. There's a, for those of you who may know, you remember that one, Prayojan Prabhu? Hopefully you don't remember at the time of death. There's this fairy liquid advert where they're talking about the bubbles that are produced by the fairy liquid. Yatirtha buddhi shalile nakarihicha. If you just go to bathe, you can bathe, but you may not be in the consciousness. You may bathe and you may drown in the water and still come back as the CEO of a washing liquid factory. It's possible. Because you missed the point. What's the point of going to the dham? We can chant and miss the point. Kaviraj Goswami says, Eka Krishna nama kare sarva papa nash, tonhar hridaya tandra prema hoya vas. Eka Krishna nama kare. You take one name of Krishna, sarva papa nash, and all your sins can be eradicated. But what's the mature fruit of chanting? Premera karana. Premera karana bhakti korena prakash. You should develop the mood of loving service towards Krishna. If we chant, but we don't develop service attitude, then we've missed the whole point. The default setting on a devotee when it comes to service should be yes. Whenever someone asks you, yes. And then, okay, we'll work it out if we can't do it later on. But the default setting should be yes. It takes time to make that setting, Right now our default setting is no. And then, the devotees kind of coax us into it. Okay, all right, I'll surrender. No, because if you don't develop service attitude, what was the purpose of chanting? We missed the point. You can accept the dress of a Vaishnav. You can accept the identity of a Vaishnav and miss the point, because even if you accept all the external aspects of Vaishnav culture, but you don't develop the internal character, you miss the point. That's why Balaram said to Romaharshan Sutta, Adantasya vinitasya vrita pandita manina nagunaya bhavanti sma natasyeva jita atmana. You're sitting here on the Vyasasan, Seti Hasa Puranani, you're speaking so much Shastra. Adantasya, you never learn any self-control. Vinitasya, did you learn humility? Na gunaya bhavanti sma, as a result of all of your adoption of the external aspects of Vaishnava identity, na gunaya bhavanti sma, the good qualities did not develop within your character. Natasyeva, natya means drama. He says all of your practice of spiritual life is just like an actor learning his lines. It's a drama. Missed the point. And here, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya also missed the point. There are other characters in the Chaitanya Charitamrita who also missed the point, just like Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Mahaprabhu went to East Bengal and he met Tapan Mishra. Tapan Mishra knew so many Shastra. Tapan Mishra himself came to Mahaprabhu and he said, Bahu Shastra, Bahu Vakya Chite Brahma hoy, Sadhya Sadhana Shreshta na hoy nishchoy. I read so many Shastra. I heard so many instruction. Sadhya, Sadhana, Shreshta. I never understood, even though I've read so many things, I have not understood what's the perfect goal and what's the means to achieve it. I missed the point. I didn't learn. So, it's so easy in spiritual life to miss the point. And here we're speaking specifically about Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who missed the point because he learned so many Shastras, but he never understood what is the ultimate conclusion of Shastra, which is to surrender to Krishna. And the way that Gopinath Acharya is resolving the situation is by repeatedly quoting Srimad Bhagavatam. If you understand Srimad Bhagavatam, you will never misunderstand the sadhya and the sadhana of life. You can't. And that's the special gift that Gopinath Acharya gave to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarve Vedanta Saram hi Srimad Bhagavatam Ishyate. Sarve Vedanta Saram hi. If you want to understand the sar, the essence of Sarva Vedanta, all the Vedic scriptures, Srimad Bhagavatam Ishyate, then you must read Bhagavatam. Tad rasamrita triptasya, and when you taste the rasa within Bhagavatam, which is known as rasamalayam, na anyatra shyad rati kvachit, you will not want to taste anything else. The Bhagavatam is glorified in this way as the Sarva Vedanta Sar. The Bhagavatam is also glorified by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who explains Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanam Amalam. It's the pramanam, it's the evidence, it's the bedrock, it's the reference point of every single thing. If you want to understand, you must go to Bhagavatam. And then our Vaishnava saints glorify Srimad Bhagavatam in so many ways. Sharva Shastrabdi Piyusha, the Bhagavatam is the nectar which is churned from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures. Sarva Vedaika Satphala, the Bhagavatam is the mature fruit which is found upon the tree of Vedic knowledge. Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadhya, the Bhagavatam is that scripture which is enriched with the gemstones of all philosophical conclusions. Sarva Lokeka Drikprada, the Bhagavatam is that which gives vision to the world. Sarva Bhagavata Prana, the Bhagavatam is the life breath of the devotees. Srimad Bhagavatam Prabhu, the Bhagavatam is my master. Kali Dvanto Ditaditya, the Bhagavatam is that which has come to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. Shri Krishna Parivartita, the Bhagavatam, in conclusion, is Shri Krishna who has come back to this world to be with us. That's the Bhagavatam. So the Bhagavatam is glorified. Somehow or other, Sarvabhauma missed it. And therefore, Gopinath Acharya is now giving Bhagavatam to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya so he can understand the goal again. Jiva Goswami in the Tattva Sandarbha basically establishes why the Bhagavatam is the Amala Praman, is the spotless authority on everything. So I just for a few moments explain this to you, try to explain it to you. It's a little philosophical, but please follow. This is very, very powerful. If you understand how to establish Bhagavatam as the Pramana Mamalam, then it will very much help you in your conversations with others, especially those who come from Vedic background, who supposedly profess to know the conclusions but may be misguided. This is how in the Tattva Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami establishes Bhagavatam as the ultimate Praman. It's very, very important. Before I explain that, if we want to understand reality, we need to understand three things: Brahman, Jagat, and Jiva. theology, religion, philosophy, worldview means these three things must be established very, very clearly. Yeah? Brahman means God. Jagat means the world around us. And Jiva means the living entity. A philosophy is not a philosophy. A religion is not a religion. A theology is not a theology if it doesn't tell you what is God, what is this world around us, and who are we as Jivas. Every philosophy must tell you this. And not only tell you what these three things are, but tell you the relationship between them. Okay? Two further things must be known. Along with knowing Brahman, Jagat and Jiva, two further things must be explained in a philosophy. Baddha. Baddha means how are we bound? How is the Jiva bound in this world? Okay? And the fifth and final thing, Mukti. How does the Jiva gain release? So it doesn't matter who professes, whatever name you give to the religion, they must give you a tattva on this. Who is God? What is the world? Who is the Jiva? Why is the Jiva bound? And how does the Jiva get out of here? Some time ago I saw there was a new religion called the religion of the Jedis. Right? Religion of the Jedis I saw. It's on the electoral roll. You can formally call yourself a religion of the Jedis. I don't know how much insight the Jedis have into Brahman, Jagat, Jiva, Baddha and Mukti. There's no religion unless they are able to understand these things. So every philosophy will have a worldview on these things. Just to digress, what is Sarvabhauma's understanding of these five things? He follows what philosophy? Mayavad. So what do Mayavad say about these things? They have a worldview. Their worldview is, in one line, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya Jiva Brahmeva Naparaha. Finished. That's the whole philosophy. So what is their philosophy? Brahma Satyam. Brahman is God, and that's true. Jagan Mithya. Jagat, the world, that's false. That doesn't exist. It's just a dream. Jiva Brahmeva Naparaha. And who's the Jiva? Jiva is ultimately the same as Brahman. Jiva Brahmeva Naparaha. There's no difference between Jiva and Brahman. So this is how Mayavad paint the picture of the Tattvatraya, Brahman, Jagat and Jiva in this way. Why, according to Mayavad, are we baddha? Why are we bound? How in the world did we get here? What's the answer of the Mayavadis, according to their philosophy? Illusion, Maya, theory of Maya, Vivartavad. This is what Shankaracharya professed. The reason for baddha or bound, being bound in this world, is because theory of Maya. And what is the means of mukti, according to Mayavadis? Brahma Gyan. Brahma Gyan, Jnana Yoga Vyavastiti, studying the Vedanta. Because if you study Vedanta and you get Vidya, then that cancels out avidya. If there's no avidya, there's no Maya. If there's no Maya, then Jiva Brahmeva Naparaha, then the Jiva is Brahman again. So this is how Mayavadis paint the picture of these five things. Does it make sense? No, it doesn't make sense. That's good. We were once doing a talk on this, and one devotee was explaining Mayavad, and another devotee goes, I just don't understand Mayavad. He goes, brilliant. If you understood it, then I'd be worried. It makes no sense. And therefore, all the other philosophies come in. So this is Mayavad. This is how they explain everything. But then Vaishnava acharyas come along and they give a counter argument. Ramanujacharya comes along and he gives Vishishta Advaita. He says, no, it's not about Keval Advaita of Shankara. Vishishta Advaita, qualified monism. Vishnu Swami, he has a different idea of what the philosophy, he's not different idea, means he explains Shuddha Advaita. It's not Keval Advaita, it's not exclusive oneness of Shankara, it's purified oneness. Madhvacharya comes with his philosophy, Dvaita Vedanta, pure dualism. That's how he defines the five things. Nimbarka comes with his philosophy, Dvaita Dvaita, Beda Beda, one and different. And then Mahaprabhu comes with a Chintya Beda Beda Tattva. Anyway, so now I just went on a digression. But the point here I'm making is that to understand reality means to understand five things. Let me just make sure you're with me. Number one is? Number two is? Number three is? Number four? Number five? Okay, very good. So Jiva Goswami says in Tattva Sandarbha, if you want to understand reality, you have to understand these five things. So now look at the genius of how he establishes Bhagavatam. First point he says, to understand these five things, firstly, how will you understand? In philosophy, there are four branches, and one of the branches of philosophy is something called epistemology. Epistemology means how you know you know. It's the method of acquiring knowledge. What's your praman? So Jiva Goswami explains there are different pramans. Pratyaksha, praman. Anuman, praman. Shabda, praman. One way you can understand knowledge is by your senses. Another way you can understand is by anuman or logical inference. Another way you can understand is through shabda or testimony. So what he does first in Tattva Sandarbha is he explains that Pratyaksha and Anuman are insufficient means of acquiring knowledge in order to understand these five things. We cannot see what is beyond this wall. How will we understand the rest of creation? It's not possible. So the first thing Jiva Goswami establishes is that one must accept Shabda. You must hear from someone. Next thing, second point, Jiva Goswami says, okay, we established that point. You have to hear from someone. Who will you now hear from? So second point he makes is he says, look for a praman or a shabda, hear from someone who's apaurushaya, who's spiritual, not material, because material means defects. Four defects: illusion, imperfect senses. If someone says, yeah, I realize my senses are imperfect, therefore I should hear from someone. But then they go and hear from someone who has imperfect senses. It's like, Baba, you're back to square one. So the second thing he establishes is that you must have Shabda. So hear Shabda from apaurushaya, someone who is spiritual. Okay, good. Yes, this is very logical. Thank you. Next point, Jiva Goswami says, okay, now we establish you have to hear from apaurushaya, a spiritual source. Now, next thing you have to do, which spiritual source? There are many. There are so many shastras in the world. There are so many. So what Jiva Goswami does is he systematically establishes that the Vedic revelation of the absolute truth is the most comprehensive and intimate understanding of God. It's the most beautiful. It's the most comprehensive. It's the most eternal. It creates the most auspiciousness. It's the most accessible. In different ways, he establishes the Vedic body of knowledge as the most powerful revelation of the absolute truth. Shishi Radha Gokulananda ki jai. Okay, so we're there. Jiva Goswami has done that now. He's established the Vedas. But now next problem we'll say, Vedas have so many books. So which book shall I read? There's Shruti, there's Smriti, there's so many divisions of knowledge. Which one shall I read? So then what Jiva Goswami does in perhaps one of the longest sections of this part of the Tattva Sandarbha, he goes into a flurry of quotations where he establishes that Puranas, Puranas are the books of the Vedas that you need to read if you want to understand what is the ultimate conclusion of the Vedas, because the Puranas basically clarify all of the different Vedic statements that are made. He explains that Purana comes from the word Purna, which means perfect or complete. So the Puranas are those books in the Vedas which bring you to the complete or the flawless conception of what the Vedas is actually teaching. So he establishes Puranas are the fifth Veda, the Panchama Veda. Okay, so you're there now? He's established the Puranas as the books you have to read. But then someone will come along and say, but the Puranas, there are so many Puranas. There are 18 Puranas. If you read Shiv Purana, it tells you to worship Shiva. If you read Devi Purana, it tells you to worship Devi. So which Purana should I read? So then next stage he goes into is he explains that there are 18 Puranas, but they are all in different modes. So he explains there are Tamasic Puranas, there are Rajasic Puranas, and ultimately there are Sattvic Puranas. So he says, if you want to understand, then you have to go to the Sattvic Puranas. Okay, great. But there's still 6 there. Can you narrow it down a little bit more? He says, yes, we can narrow it down. Because amongst these Sattvic Puranas, there is one Purana which is known as the Amala Purana. The Purana which is spotless, the Purana which is the natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, which helps you to understand the place of every Purana. And because this Srimad Bhagavate Mahamunikrite Kim Vapareirishvara, because this Purana was compiled by Vyasadeva in his maturity, this Purana is to be considered the ultimate Praman, and that Purana is Shiva Purana, no. Bhagavata Puran. So this is powerful. This is powerful knowledge. Jiva Goswami goes one step further. He says, okay, we establish Bhagavatam. But then how do you establish what is the essence of a book? So he says there's 6 things, more, 6, 7, 8, I can't remember all of them. He says these things you can understand what is the essence of a book. What does the book say at the start? What does the book say at the end? What is repeated in every section of the book? What's the special offering that that book brings to the philosophical world? And what is the Shruti Phal, or the fruit of reading that is repeatedly given in the book? So then through this parameter, he looks at Bhagavatam and he says, what does Bhagavatam begin? Save pumsham paro dharmo yato bhakti radok sajay ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. What is the goal of life? The paradharmo. Yato bhakti radok sajay, bhakti to Krishna. That's how Bhagavatam starts. Brilliant, that's clear. How does Bhagavatam end? Nama sankirtanam yasya sarva papa pranashanam. Engage in Nam Sankirtan, the foremost anga of bhakti, and through Nam Sankirtan, sarva papa pranashanam, all your sins will be eradicated, you will come in contact with the Lord. Okay, that seems to correlate. So the start and the end seem to promote bhakti and Krishna. Wow, that's pretty good. What is repeated in every canto of the Bhagavatam? Whether it's Canto 1, Parikshit, whether it's Canto 2 and Brahma's realizations, whether it's Canto 3 and Kapila Dev's instructions to Devahuti, whether it's Canto 4 and Dhruva, whether it's Canto 5 and Bharat, whether it's Canto 6 and Ajamil, what is the constant theme that they take shelter of? Bhakti to Krishna. So that's good. The constant theme seems to be the same. What would you say the special offering of the Bhagavatam is? What's the culmination of the Bhagavatam that it offers to the world? Have a go? Science. Yeah, I know you're going to give these kind of answers. I'm looking for some. Yes? Prema. And where is prema shown in its most shining, on full stage? 10th canto. The special, Jiva Goswami says, all of the subjects and all of the cantos of the Bhagavatam exist simply to illumine the 10th canto. And what does the 10th canto reveal? Bhakti to Krishna. And what is the Shruti Phal that's practically given in every single pastime, isn't it? If you read, he who reads the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj will attain. He who reads the pastime of Ajamil will attain. Generally is always given Bhakti to Krishna. So then Jiva Goswami says, look, I already said Bhagavatam is the Praman, and if you look at Bhagavatam and try to extract what the essence is Bhakti to Krishna. Finished. And that's what Jiva Goswami does in Tattva Sandarbha. This is what Gopinath Acharya is offering to Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya. Because Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya was not connected to Bhagavatam, he misunderstood the Vedas. Here, even if you look in a previous verse, it's said like that. Upon hearing this, Gopinath Acharya became very unhappy. He said to the Bhattacharya, you consider yourself the knower of Vedic scriptures. Srimad Bhagavatam and Mahabharata are the two most important Vedic scriptures, but you have not paid attention to their statements. Srila Prabhupada gave us Bhagavatam, and the real challenge for each one of us now is to live through the vision that the Bhagavatam gives. Gopinath Acharya was not just someone who knew what Bhagavatam says, but he was living the Bhagavat Darshan. He was seeing everything through the eyes of Bhagavatam. There is Arthagya to understand, there is Shabdagya to understand the words of a book. There is Arthagya to understand the deeper meaning behind what is being said by those words. But there is Marmagya, which means to instill those Siddhanta Ratnadhya, those jewels of wisdom within the heart and live by them. And that is the stage that we have to realize or reach in our study of Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam was given to us by Srila Prabhupada as a book to read, more than that as a book to study, but more than that as a book and a lens through which to react to every single emotion, experience and event that we face in life. And so that is the challenge for us. How much are we living with the darshan of Bhagavatam? How much are we able to react to life's events through the words of Bhagavatam? You see, when we are feeling envious or when we are feeling fear or anxiety, can we remember the words of the Bhagavatam? That we only feel these things when we're not immersed in Krishna Katha. Because the Prachetas say, Yatridyante katham rishtas trishnaya prashamogata nirvedam yatra bhuteshu nodvego yatra kaschana. Wherever talks of Krishna are going on, everyone forgets their enviousness, everyone forgets their fear, everyone forgets their anxiety. When we feel anxiety, envy and fear, if we're seeing life through the lens of the Bhagavatam, we will conclude it's because I'm not sufficiently immersed in Krishna Katha. When someone near and dear to us passes away, will we be able to see through the lens of the Bhagavatam? Will we be able to open up the 6th canto and hear Angira Rishi and Narada Muni speaking to Chitraketu when his son dies, telling him the truths of how the soul is eternal? Will we be able to perceive Angira Rishi and Narad Muni speaking to us? That is the test. When we are feeling some temptation or feeling some allurement by the energy of the material world, will we be able to see through the darshan of the Bhagavatam, through the darshan of Prahlad Maharaj, who says, Kanduyanena karayori vaduka dukam. These temptations that you have are like the itching. And if you're somehow able to tolerate it, then you will save yourself so much pain. Are we going to be able to see through that lens of the Bhagavatam? When we commit a mistake and we fall down or we fall short of our ideals, are we going to be able to see through the lens of the Bhagavatam? Are we going to be able to see through the 5th canto where Bharat Maharaj, who was on the stage of Bhava, made a mistake? But how he so gracefully picked himself up and then again took himself to perfection. Are we going to be able to see through that lens? That's the question. So the Bhagavatam is not just something to be read, it's not just something to be studied, but it's a vision which must be installed within the innermost chambers of how we conduct our journey in this world. And that is the challenge. Gopinath Acharya had that vision. And therefore Gopinath Acharya, as the Vyakti Bhagavat, as the person, the manifest Bhagavat, was able to share that vision with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and transform him. And so, I guess these are some thoughts that came to my mind when I read this verse, that it's so easy to miss the point in many spiritual activities, and it's so easy to miss the point when we read the Shastra, but the Bhagavatam was kindly gifted to us by Srila Prabhupada so that we don't miss the point. And now that's all left for us to do is instill that vision and live through the vision of the Bhagavatam. And in this way, then we can ensure that our future is positive, progressive, and close to Krishna. So I'll stop there if anyone has any comments, questions, or points to add.
I just wondered, so you mentioned that like we should install the vision of Bhagavatam into into us. But if we're missing the point of when we read Bhagavatam, do you have any practical tips of how we can remain seeing the point, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so how do we maintain our vision as to what the essence is? That's why we're saying a devotee has to become very, very introspective. If you have introspection, then it stops you from going on to autopilot. And it's autopilot which basically makes us miss the point. So be very introspective, always navigate your journey and reflect upon your journey and ask yourself, am I actually catching the... Vaishnav means Saragrahi. No, Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings a very nice song, Saragrahi Vaishnav, the one who has grasped the essence. So it means every day you have to sit down and contemplate, am I grasping the essence of it all? It's amazing how we, I don't know if this is a true story or not, but apparently one devotee, his guru had come to visit. So his guru he was serving him, so he was in the room next to him. Anyway, one day he was serving his guru, and anyway, he was in his room and he was making an offering to his guru's picture, offering the prasadam. But somehow he got so absorbed in making the offering that he actually forgot to take the prasadam to his living guru, who was actually next door. It's like, it's quite funny. He was there in front of the picture of his guru giving the prasadam, and his guru was knocking on the door like, where's the prasadam? Yeah, 1 second, I'm coming, I'm just offering it. I don't know if that's a true story or not, but it sounds quite similar to the 10th canto, where Krishna comes to the Vedic Brahmanas and says, the Gopas come and ask for food, and say, yeah, they ignore them. Amazing. So yeah, one must become very introspective, and see, the thing is, you have to also surround yourself with devotees who have that. Devotees who are grasping the essence. Yeah, I mean, there can be so many things to be said about how to live a conscious spiritual life. There are many ways to answer that question. That's a long... Ultimately, one must be sincere. And then when you make a statement like that, a hand goes up and says, Prabhu, how do you become sincere? It's like, I don't know how you become sincere. We have to be frustrated in life. We have to realize that while we miss the essence of what Shastra is offering to us, we'll again hit dead ends in the world. You know? One must realize these things. We can tell you, be around devotees, introspect, all of this, but the fact of the matter is you have to have lost complete faith in the spiritual, in material life. You have to lost faith. And only when you lose faith in material life, then you're able to grasp the reality. And otherwise, if you haven't lost faith in material life, you'll practice spiritual life and still be trying to grasp the material benefits of spiritual life, and then you'll miss the point. So introspect, have good association, and then ultimately, somehow or other, we have to come to the realization that I don't have any more faith in the material world, and I have to find the essence of spiritual life. So. Yeah, whoever, I don't mind.
I don't have any questions.
Hare Krishna, thank you for the class. And you say we have to go on the autopilot yes. And the yes, okay, I take this service, yes, I do it, yes. But a few times I realized that when I say yes, I don't understand what is the consequences of my yes. So I say yes, and for example, I had to drive a big truck for the temple, and they told me, you go there, you pick devotees, you do some shopping, and you come back. I say yes. And they give me the keys, they disappear, and I realize.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
So
in
yes.
your mind, say yes. Don't actually say it. See, this is the point. This is the point. In your mind, you should be saying yes. Don't actually say yes, because that you have to consider. You have to consider what's the ramifications. You don't want to let the devotees down. But the point is the seva bhav there? Is the bhav, the emotion to want to serve, is that there? Whether you can practically do it or not do it, that's a different thing. But is the bhav to serve there? Like I often tell that story. Once I came, and a devotee came to me and said, there's no one for the transfer, can you do it, And it was just like, no, Prabhu, I can't do it, I got too many things on today, I got, it's like a packed day and back to back. And anyway, then he left, and then I went upstairs, and then I asked him, and then I said, no, look, here's my diary. There was no way I could have done this service. I'm right. There was no way I could have done this service. And then I realized, but actually I'm wrong. I'm wrong because although I couldn't practically do the service, that's true, in my mind I was not thinking, I really want to do that service. Therefore it means the seva bhav was not there. You understand the difference? In my mind, the reaction should have been, yeah. But why do we exist? We exist to serve. We exist to serve. So if an opportunity for service comes, that's what you exist for. But the point is, oftentimes we're not. So that's the point I'm making. When I say the default should be yes, I mean, in your heart, you should always want to. But oftentimes we don't want to. That's the problem. So therefore, if we chant Hare Krishna, but the seva bhav is not coming, then it means there's a problem.
Thank you for the class, Vibhu. In Bhagavatam,
11 and 12.
yeah, then why does it not finish there? Why is...
Just like in the Gita, bhakti is in the middle. So then someone can say the same thing. Krishna already mentioned the essence of Bhagavad Gita, so then why does he end it with Gyan? Because the knowledge of Gyan, the knowledge of those 6 chapters in the Gita will still help you to navigate this world. Yes, the essence of bhakti has been given. But then what does Krishna do in those final 6 chapters of the Gita? He tells you about the modes of nature. Because practically speaking, we're not flying high in the skies of bhakti. We're in the jungle of the 3 modes of the material world. We want to get there, but the reality is we're here. And therefore, what does Krishna do? After telling you what the goal is, he tells you where you're at and what you need to do to navigate this place to get there. Krishna explains in those last 6 chapters about the banyan tree of the spiritual world and the material world. Yes, you want to fly high, go to bhakti, first cut down the attachment to the reflected banyan tree. So what happens in 11 and 12 of the Bhagavatam? Practically 11 is Uddhav Gita. And what's Uddhav Gita is practically an expansion of Bhagavad Gita. And many of the topics that you find in the last 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita are repeated in the 11th canto, Uddhav Gita. And then 12th canto, what is that? The age of deterioration. Similar, like 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, creating a detachment within. You want to stay in Kali Yuga, in the material world? By the way, my friend, you know what's going to be like in the future? I don't think you want to stay here. Extra impetus to embrace bhakti. So that's why Shastra is like that. It opens you up. It's kind of like going back to the story at the beginning. You dig up the dirt, you put the seed in, and then you put the dirt back. So that's how Shastra works. It opens you up, puts in the bhakti, and then covers it up and tells you, okay, so boom, go. And then bhakti comes up. So it must land like that. Sometimes people ask, why does Bhagavatam, you saying it only talks about bhakti, but it goes in so many directions. Isn't it? Creation, sarga, visarga, so many different things here and there. Why doesn't it just boom? I was thinking about this recently. Have you ever seen a book distributor in action? Revati Nandan. I was distributing books with Revati Nandan in Paris. Have you ever seen a book distributor in action? They don't just go up to someone and say, hey, my friend, here's a book, karma, reincarnation, yoga, meditation, give a donation, boom, straight in, straight out. But you ain't going to do nothing like that. Have you ever seen a book distributor? They go here, there, how's the weather, how's coronavirus, how's this, how's that. Then they come into the book and they begin speaking about the book. And even after they speak about the book, then they may watch the person and then go, anyway, and yeah, how's your family? Go back again, come back again. And when the point is right, boom. Isn't it? That's psychology. Yeah. Krishna Bhakta Bodha Chatu. Krishna's devotees are very intelligent. They know how to put in. So Bhagavatam is same. It doesn't just go in, boom, here's Bhakti, Krishna. He knows we're so tricky. Our mind is all over the place. So what does Bhagavatam do? It goes here, there, everywhere, closing up all the doubts that may be there, all the inhibitions. Book distribution is the art of objection handling. You basically got to handle every single objection the person has and say, there's no problem here. You need this book and you can take this book. So that's what Bhagavatam does, is complete objection handling. No, there's no problem. No, but I don't know, what does the Bhagavatam say about the universe? I met my scientist friend and he's telling me it all came from a big bang. Okay, boom, let's go 5th canto then. Oh no, but what about this? This is not explained. Why did someone die in my family if God exists? Okay, boom, let's go then. 6th canto, Angira Rishi. Is these the goals of life? No, these are not the goals of life, but these are the issues that are blocking us from the goal of life. So Bhagavatam will address it and then ultimately give you the essence, the sar. Okay. I guess there could be more questions, but we'll stop there. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki, Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.